She left me because I let myself go. 3 years later, she showed up at my door with that same smile that used to destroy me. Except this time, I had a wife who loved me at my worst standing right behind me. And all I could think was, you have no idea what you walked away from. Hi, my beautiful family. Thank you for sticking around with me through our trying times. I really appreciate your love and support. We're finally back again to give you many more beautiful stories. If you're already hooked in for today's story and ready to enjoy it, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Because tomorrow, I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one. And you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. Okay, Reddit. Grab a snack. This one's long, it's real. And by the end of it, I think you'll understand why I cried in a Walmart parking lot and then came home and ran 4 miles. So let me set the scene. My name is Matthew. Matt to pretty much everyone. I'm 38 years old, I live in a mid-sized town in Ohio, I work in supply chain management. Which is a fancy way of saying I sit at a desk and stare at spreadsheets until my eyes start crossing. And about 2 years ago, I was the heaviest, most exhausted, most emotionally checked out version of myself I have ever been in my life. We're talking 247 pounds on a 5'11" frame. We're talking blood pressure that made my doctor do that thing where he takes the reading twice because he doesn't believe the first number. We're talking a guy who got winded tying his shoes and told himself it was because he bent over too fast. I was that guy. But here's the thing Reddit loves to skip past in these transformation stories. I wasn't miserable. That's the trap. I wasn't dramatically unhappy. I wasn't sitting in a dark room crying every night. I was just comfortable. Dangerously, deceptively, stupidly comfortable. I had a decent job, a house, a dog named Biscuit, and a wife named Claire who, for reasons I still thank God for daily, loved me in a way I had absolutely not earned yet. Claire. Let me tell you about Claire. She's a pediatric nurse. 36 years old, brown hair. The kind of laugh that makes strangers in restaurants turn around and smile. She grew up in a small town in Indiana. She makes the best chicken tortilla soup you've ever tasted. And she has this habit of leaving sticky notes around the house with completely random encouraging messages. Like I'd open the medicine cabinet and there'd be a yellow post-it that just said, "You're doing great, babe." For no reason. On a Wednesday. That's Claire. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party 4 years ago. I was already heavy then. Not 247, but not athletic either. Maybe 220. She didn't care. She laughed at my terrible jokes. She gave me her number without me having to fumble through asking for it. And 3 months later I was meeting her parents in Indiana and trying very hard not to spill anything on myself at dinner. We got married 18 months after that birthday party. And I want you to understand something important, because this is where the Reddit revenge part of this story lives. I had been in a relationship before Claire. A serious one. 3 years with a woman named Brooke. Brooke was, how do I put this without sounding bitter, because I'm genuinely not bitter anymore? Brooke was the kind of beautiful that made you forget to have standards. You know the type. The kind of person whose attractiveness becomes a personality substitute for so long that by the time you realize there's not much underneath it, you've already rearranged your entire life around them. I loved Brooke. Or I loved who I thought she was. She broke up with me on a Tuesday afternoon in the parking lot of an Applebee's. I will never eat at an Applebee's again as long as I live, and I don't think that's unreasonable. And the reason she gave me, delivered with a kind of practiced calm that told me she'd rehearsed it, was this. Matt, I love you, but I'm not attracted to you anymore. You've changed physically and I need someone who takes care of themselves. She said it like it was a reasonable thing. Like it was almost kind even. Like she was doing me a favor by being honest. I sat in my car for 40 minutes after she drove away. Drop a comment below. Have you ever had someone make you feel like your worth was tied to your size? How did you handle it? I want to hear from you. Backhand index pointing down. That breakup wrecked me in a specific way that I think only people who've been through something similar will understand. It wasn't just the rejection. It was the reason for the rejection. Because it confirmed every ugly thing I had quietly been thinking about myself. That I was too much, that I was unworthy, that a person could look at me and find me literally not worth staying for. I spent about 8 months after Brooke in a pretty dark place. Not dangerous. I want to be clear about that. But gray. Everything just gray and heavy and low. And then I went to a birthday party and met a woman who laughed at my terrible jokes. And slowly, slowly, the gray started to lift. Here's what I didn't do though, and this is the part I'm not proud of. I didn't deal with what Brooke said. I just buried it. I let Claire's love cover it over like fresh paint on a cracked wall. I told myself I was fine. I told myself I had moved on. I ate the same way, lived the same way, sat at the same desk eating the same sad desk lunches, and I gained more weight, and I told myself it didn't matter because Claire loved me anyway. And she did. She genuinely did. But love isn't a replacement for taking care of yourself. I know that now. I didn't know it then. What woke me up wasn't dramatic. It was a photograph. Claire's sister posted photos from Thanksgiving on Instagram. Family gathering, everybody smiling, big table full of food. And there I was in the background, not even the focus of the photo, and I looked at myself and felt this cold, specific shock. Not because I looked bad, but because I didn't recognize myself as the main character of my own life. I looked like a supporting character, a background detail, a guy who was just there. I showed Claire the photo that night. She looked at it. Then she looked at me with those steady brown eyes of hers. "What are you going to do about it?" she asked. Not "you look fine." Not "don't be so hard on yourself." She knew me well enough to know I didn't need reassurance. She knew I needed a direction. "I think I need to make a change," I said. "Then make it," she said. "I'll be right here." She reached over and took my hand. Just held it. Didn't make a speech. Didn't make me feel guilty. Just held my hand in that quiet way she has that somehow communicates everything. "Promise me," I said. I don't even know why I said it. It just came out. "Promise you what?" she asked. "That you'll stay right here while I figure this out." She looked at me for a long moment. Then she brought my hand up and held it against her cheek. "Matt," she said quietly, "I'm not going anywhere. But you have to make the promise too. To me. That you're going to do this." "I promise," I said. And I meant it. For the first time in a long time I meant something completely. A man can't break a promise to the woman he loves. So here's the thing about making a promise. The night you make it feels electric. You're emotional, you're motivated, you've got this clarity that feels like it could power a city. You go to bed that night thinking this is it. This is the turning point. Tomorrow everything changes. And then tomorrow comes. And it's just Tuesday. I woke up the morning after I made that promise to Claire, and I lay in bed for exactly 17 minutes arguing with myself about whether I actually needed to start today or whether I could give myself the weekend to mentally prepare. This is what your brain does. It is a master negotiator, and it works entirely against your interests. I got up anyway. I didn't join a fancy gym. I didn't buy expensive equipment or hire a personal trainer or overhaul my entire life in one dramatic sweep. I put on the least embarrassing pair of shorts I owned, laced up some sneakers I found in the back of the closet, and I walked out of my front door at 6:15 a.m. into a cold Ohio morning, and I started moving. I made it about a mile and a half before my body staged what I can only describe as a formal protest. I came back inside red-faced and breathing like I'd just survived something. Biscuit looked at me from his dog bed with what I can only interpret as concern. Claire was in the kitchen making coffee, and she looked up when I came through the door. "How far?" she asked. "Mile and a half," I wheezed. She handed me a glass of water. "Same time tomorrow," she said. Not a question. A statement. "Same time tomorrow," I agreed. That was day one. Claire had already been quietly doing things I hadn't fully noticed. The snack cabinet that usually had chips and cookies in it had been reorganized. Not emptied, she wasn't cruel about it, but shifted. The front of the shelf was fruit, nuts, things that required actual chewing. The junk was still there, but it was in the back behind things requiring effort to reach. Psychological warfare, executed with love. She started cooking differently too. Same meals, mostly. But smaller portions, more vegetables worked in, less of the stuff that was slowly killing me. She didn't announce it. She didn't say I'm changing how I cook because you need to lose weight. She just did it. Because that's how Claire operates. She solves problems quietly and lets you think you solve them yourself. I noticed. I never said anything. But I noticed. I started tracking my food. Downloaded one of those apps that makes you log everything you eat, which is either the most useful thing you can do for your health or a form of self-torture depending on the day. I logged everything. Religiously. Even the days I blew it. Even the Tuesday I stress ate an entire sleeve of crackers during a work call and had to log it with the specific shame of a man who knows exactly what he did. 2 weeks in, I had lost 3 pounds. 3 pounds feels like nothing. 3 pounds is nothing mathematically. It is the weight of a large bag of apples. But I remember standing on the bathroom scale that morning and feeling something shift. Not in my body, but somewhere underneath it. Like the first creak of a door that has been stuck for a very long time. I texted Claire from the bathroom. Down 3 pounds. She texted back immediately. She was already at work. It was 6 a.m. She's a morning person in a way that I find both admirable and slightly inhuman. And her response was just, "Trophy, keep going." I kept going. Week 5 is where it got ugly. I want to be honest about this because every transformation story you read online skips the part where you genuinely, seriously, with your whole chest want to quit. They skip the part where the motivation runs out and what's left is just the raw, unglamorous grind of doing something hard because you said you would. Week 5 I hit a wall that felt like concrete. The scale hadn't moved in 11 days. 11 days of walking, of logging food, of saying no to things I wanted, and the number just sat there mocking me. I know now that this is normal, the body does this, it's called a plateau, it's a biological process, blah blah blah. I did not know that then. What I knew then was that I had been suffering for 5 weeks and had nothing to show for it, and I was tired and my knees hurt, and my coworker Jason had brought donuts to the office 3 days in a row like he was specifically targeting me. I came home on day 11 of the plateau in a mood that Claire clocked from across the living room before I even said a word. "Scale," she said. "Still nothing," I said. I dropped onto the couch with the energy of a man who had been defeated by mathematics. She sat down next to me. Didn't say anything for a minute. "Can I tell you something without you getting defensive?" she said. "Probably not, but go ahead," I said. She almost smiled. "The scale is one number. It measures one thing. But I watched you walk up the stairs tonight without holding the railing. You haven't done that in months." I opened my mouth. Closed it. "And last Sunday you played with your nephew for 2 hours in the backyard without sitting down once," she continued. "And you slept through the night 3 times this week without your snoring waking me up. Which honestly, Matt, that one's as much for me as it is for you." I laughed despite myself. "The scale is a liar," she said. "Your body isn't." I looked at her. This woman. This impossibly patient, infuriatingly wise woman who somehow knew exactly what I needed to hear at the exact moment I needed to hear it. "How are you real?" I said. "I'm a nurse," she said simply. "I know bodies. And yours is changing. Trust the process." I trusted the process. Day 14 of the plateau, the scale dropped 2 pounds overnight like it owed me money. I genuinely did a fist pump in the bathroom at 6 a.m. like I'd won something. Biscuit sprinted in to see what the commotion was about. It was a good morning. There's something I need to tell you about Claire that matters for this story. She never once, not once in our entire marriage, before the promise or during it, said anything negative about my weight. Not a comment about what I was eating. Not a sigh when I took my shirt off. Not a look, not a tone, not a well-meaning suggestion dressed up as concern. Nothing. I asked her about it once, around month 3 of the journey, on a Saturday morning when we were drinking coffee on the back porch and the mood felt right for honest conversation. "Did it bother you?" I asked. "Before. When I was, before." She thought about it. Claire doesn't give you the fast answer when the honest answer is slower. "I was scared," she said finally. "Not bothered. Scared. There's a difference." "Scared of what?" "Scared of losing you too early," she said. "Scared of watching you disappear slowly when you didn't have to." "But bothered?" "No. Matt, I married you." I married the whole thing. I wasn't sitting around wishing you were different. I stared at my coffee. Then why didn't you say anything about the health stuff? Because you weren't ready, she said simply. And telling someone something they're not ready to hear doesn't help them. It just makes them feel judged. I was waiting for you to be ready. The Thanksgiving photo, I said. The Thanksgiving photo, she confirmed, with a small smile. I have thought about that conversation probably 100 times since. About the difference between someone who loves you and someone who is patient with you. About how those two things aren't the same, but in the best relationships, they're both present at once. Claire had been patient with me for years. Quietly, without martyrdom, without resentment. Just waiting for me to be ready. I thought about Brooke, who hadn't waited. Who had delivered her verdict in an Applebee's parking lot with rehearsed calm and driven away. And I thought, the right person doesn't leave when you're struggling. They wait at the finish line. 8 months into the journey. I was down 31 pounds. Not at my goal yet. I was aiming for 185. I was sitting at 216, but I was a different person in ways the scale couldn't capture. I was running 3 miles 3 times a week. I was sleeping well. My doctor had taken me off blood pressure medication with instructions to keep doing whatever you're doing. My clothes didn't fit anymore and I hadn't replaced them fast enough, so I was walking around in things that were slightly too big for me, which Claire said made me look like a kid wearing his dad's clothes, but said it while laughing, so I didn't mind. Life was good. Life was genuinely, quietly, solidly good. And then my phone buzzed on a Wednesday evening with a number I hadn't seen in 4 years. Brooke. The text said, "Hey Matt. I know this is out of nowhere. I was thinking about you and just wanted to say hi. Hope you're well." I stared at it for a long time. I want to be honest about what happened inside me when I read it, because I think if I'm not honest, this story loses its point. There was a flicker. A small, stupid, deeply human flicker of something. Not attraction. Not longing. More like the ghost of an old wound making itself known. The way a healed scar sometimes pulls when the weather changes. I showed it to Claire. Some people might think that was the wrong move. Some people would say keep it private, don't make drama. But Claire and I don't do secrets. We decided that early in our relationship. Not in a formal conversation, just gradually through the way we talk to each other. Secrets are where distance starts. I handed her my phone without saying anything. She read it. Her face didn't change much. Claire's face rarely gives away the first layer of what she's feeling. You have to know her to read the second layer, which is where the real information lies. I knew her. She was calm. But she was paying attention. "What do you want to do?" she asked, handing the phone back. "Nothing," I said immediately. And I meant it. "You sure?" "She left me in a parking lot because I was fat," I said. "And then you happened. So yeah, I'm sure." Claire looked at me for a moment. Then she nodded once, the way she does when she's filed something away. "Okay," she said, and went back to what she was doing. I didn't respond to Brooke's text that night. But Brooke wasn't done. The texts came in slowly at first. Casual. Friendly. Designed to seem harmless. "Saw something that reminded me of you today, lol. Do you still watch that show we used to watch? New season is so good. I heard you got married. Congrats, that's really great." That last one felt different. Less casual. Like she was testing something. Like she was holding a door open to see if I'd walk through it. I showed every single text to Claire. Every one. Claire read them with the same careful calm and said the same thing each time. "What do you want to do?" And each time I said, "Nothing." And she nodded. But I could feel something building. Not in Claire. She was steady as a rock, which is one of the things I love most about her. In me. A quiet, mounting irritation. Not at Claire. At the situation. At the audacity of someone who had looked at me and found me literally not worth staying for, now circling back like I was supposed to be available. Month 9 of my journey, I hit 199 pounds. Getting under 200 was, I don't know how to explain this to someone who hasn't done it, It was enormous. It was a number that had felt like a wall for my entire adult life. I had been over 200 for so long that I had genuinely stopped believing I could be otherwise. And then one morning I stepped on the scale and saw 199 and I sat down on the bathroom floor and I actually cried. Not sad crying. The other kind. The kind that comes when something you worked for lands. Claire heard me. She came in, took one look at the scale, and sat down on the bathroom floor next to me. In her scrubs, ready for work, fully dressed. Just sat down right there on the tiles and put her arm around me. We sat on the bathroom floor together for about 10 minutes. "You did it," she said. "We did it," I said. She shook her head. "No. You did this. I just didn't get in the way." That's Claire. Even her generosity is generous. That afternoon, I remember this specifically because of what happened next. Brooke texted again. This time it wasn't casual. "I've been thinking a lot, Matt. I made a mistake. I think about you more than I should and I just think we should talk. Can we meet up? Just coffee." I read it 3 times. Then I put my phone in my pocket and went for a run. I want you to understand what was happening in my head during that run. Because this is the part of the story where the revenge narrative wants me to feel triumphant. Wants me to feel like I won something. Like Brooke coming back was the validation I had been owed since that Applebee's parking lot. And yeah, I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a moment, maybe the first half mile, where some small, petty part of me felt a flicker of satisfaction. She sees it now. She sees what she threw away. But by mile 2, something else had replaced it. Because I thought about what had actually happened over the last 9 months. I thought about Claire on the bathroom floor in her scrubs. I thought about her post-it notes on the medicine cabinet. I thought about same time tomorrow at 6 a.m. when I came back wheezing from a 1.5 miles. I thought about her sitting next to me on the back porch saying I was scared of losing you too early with the kind of honesty that only someone who truly loves you can deliver. And I thought, Brooke doesn't want me. Brooke wants the result without having witnessed the process. She wants the 199-pound version without the 247-pound one. She wants the transformation without the Tuesday mornings. Without the plateaus. Without the bathroom floor moments. Claire had wanted all of it. Claire had chosen all of it. The heavy version, the tired version, the guy who got winded on the stairs and said I'll start Monday for 2 years straight. She had chosen him and loved him and waited for him to choose himself. That's the difference. I got home from the run, showered, and sat down at the kitchen table. Claire was cooking. Biscuit was asleep under the table. The house smelled like whatever she was making and it smelled like home. "I'm going to respond to Brooke," I said. Claire turned around. Looked at me. "Okay," she said carefully. "I'm going to tell her no," I said. Clearly. Finally. And then I'm going to block the number. I should have done it weeks ago. Something in Claire's shoulders dropped very slightly, in a way that told me she had been carrying something she hadn't shown me. "You don't have to do it for me," she said. "I know," I said. "I'm doing it for us. And honestly, for me. Because I'm done letting that chapter take up space it doesn't deserve anymore." Claire looked at me for a long moment. Then she turned back to the stove. "Dinner's in 20 minutes, she said, and her voice had a warmth in it that was different from its usual warmth. Fuller. Like something had just settled into place. I picked up my phone. I typed, "Hey Brooke. I appreciate you reaching out, but I have to be honest. I don't think meeting up is a good idea. I'm married to someone incredible and this chapter is closed for me. I wish you nothing but the best." I read it back once. Then I sent it. And then I blocked the number. I put my phone face down on the table and looked at the ceiling for a second. And then the strangest thing happened. I felt nothing. Not triumph. Not grief. Not the complicated swirl of old emotion I had expected. Just nothing. Which, it turns out, is exactly what healing feels like. Here's the part of the story Reddit is going to love. 3 weeks after I blocked Brooke's number, she showed up at my house. I want to be clear, I did not see this coming. I had expected the block to end it. I had expected her to take the hint, move on, Do whatever people do when a door closes. I had not expected her to drive to my neighborhood, find my house, I still don't know how, mutual friends I assume, and ring my doorbell on a Saturday afternoon. Claire and I were in the backyard. We just finished a 2-mile walk together. She had started joining me on weekend walks, which was something that had evolved naturally over the months. Just another quiet way she had woven herself into the journey. We were coming through the back gate, both of us a little sweaty, laughing about something Biscuit had done when we passed the park. We came through the front of the house just as she was standing on our porch. Let me describe this moment because I want you to feel it. Brooke looked exactly like I remembered. Put together, attractive, the kind of effortful casual that takes real effort. She had clearly prepared for this visit. She was holding her phone like she'd just knocked and was ready to be nervous about it. She saw me, and I watched her face do something I will remember for a long time. It cycled through several expressions in about 2 seconds. Recognition, then surprise, then something that looked almost like a recalibration. Like she had expected one version of me and had encountered another. Because I was not the man she had left in that parking lot. I was 193 pounds. I was in good health, the kind that shows in how you carry yourself, how you stand, how you move. I was wearing a t-shirt that fit. I looked, for the first time in years, like the main character. She opened her mouth. And then her eyes moved. Past me. To Claire. Claire, who was standing slightly behind me with Biscuit's leash in her hand. Slightly flushed from our walk, her hair a little messy, wearing my old college sweatshirt that she had stolen years ago and refused to return. Looking absolutely, completely, naturally at home in her own life. The two women looked at each other for a moment. There was a silence that had its own specific texture. Matt, Brooke said. Her voice was smaller than I remembered. I know I shouldn't have come. I texted and I didn't hear back and I blocked you, I said. Simply. Not unkindly. Just as a statement of fact. She blinked. I know. I just thought. Brooke. I kept my voice calm. I meant what I said in that text. This chapter is closed. She looked at me. Then at Claire again. Then back at me. And I think she understood in that moment the full picture of what she was seeing. Not just that I had lost weight. Not just that I was healthier. But that I was standing on the porch of a home I had built with someone who had loved every version of me, and I was completely, unambiguously at peace. She's your wife. Brooke said quietly. She's my wife, I said. Another silence. You look really good, Matt, she said finally. It came out almost sad. Thank you, I said. I feel really good. Take care of yourself, Brooke. And I opened the front door and went inside. Claire followed. Biscuit followed. I closed the door. From inside, I heard Brooke's footsteps on the porch. Then the sound of a car door. Then an engine starting. Then nothing. I stood in my hallway for a moment. Then Claire said from behind me, her voice perfectly measured between serious and laughing. So that was Brooke. That was Brooke, I confirmed. A beat. She seemed surprised, Claire observed. She did, I said. Another beat. Then we both started laughing at the same time, the real kind, the uncontrollable kind, the kind that doubles you over and makes your eyes water. We stood in our hallway laughing until Biscuit started barking at us because he didn't understand what was happening, which made us laugh harder. I'm going to wrap this up, Reddit, because I know it's long and I promised myself I'd land this properly. I hit 185 pounds on a Thursday morning in March. My goal weight. The number my doctor and I had circled on a calendar 11 months earlier like it was a destination on a map. I stood on that scale and I felt the same thing I felt at 199, that particular fullness in the chest that isn't pride exactly but is in the same neighborhood as pride. More like integrity. Like the feeling of having told yourself you would do something and then actually doing it. I took a photo of the scale. Sent it to Claire, who was already at work. She called me immediately. Didn't text back. Called. You did it, she said. I could hear the smile in her voice over the hospital background noise. We did it, I said. And this time she didn't argue. I want to tell you what I actually lost over those 11 months, because it wasn't just 62 pounds. I lost the version of myself that had let Brooke's words live rent-free in my head for years. The voice that said you let yourself go, you're not worth staying for, you are your worst version and that is all you are. That voice. I finally evicted it. I lost the habit of comfort over intention. The endless Mondays. The convincing myself that starting tomorrow was the same as starting today. That particular cowardice of men who mean well and act late. I lost the fear. The specific cold fear of being left again. Of being looked at and found insufficient. Because somewhere around month 6 of that journey, I realized that fear had been driving me for years. Driving my complacency paradoxically. If I never tried, I could never fail. If I never reached for the life I wanted, I couldn't lose it. And then Claire had come along and loved me so consistently that the fear had started to lose its footing. And the journey had finished the job. What I kept. My wife. Obviously. My wife who drew stars in the margins of my progress and sat on bathroom floors in her scrubs and waited for me to be ready and never once made me feel less than what I was. Who knew the difference between patience and doormatting and lived firmly in the first category. Who is, without question or competition, the best decision I have ever made. Biscuit, who supported me unconditionally throughout and asked only for walks and snacks in return. A habit of movement that is now so baked into who I am that missing a day feels strange. My body finally feels like mine. And the knowledge, the real earned, unshakable knowledge, that the right person doesn't love the version of you that's arrived. They love the version of you that's in progress. They love the trying, the falling down, the getting back up and going again. The Tuesday morning at 5:30 a.m. when you don't want to but you do. Brooke wanted the destination. Claire wanted the journey. That's the whole story. One last thing before I go, and I mean this genuinely. If you're sitting where I was sitting 2 years ago, heavy, tired, telling yourself you'll start Monday, carrying an old hurt from someone who made you feel like your worth had a weight limit, I want you to hear this. You don't need someone to leave you before you start. You don't need a rock bottom. You need a Tuesday. One ordinary Tuesday where you make a promise and keep it for one day. And then another day. And then another. The scale will lie to you. Keep going anyway. The walls will come. Walk into them anyway. And if you have a person in your life who loves you the way Claire loved me, who waits for you, who believes in you before you believe in yourself, who sits on bathroom floors with you in their work clothes, hold on to them. Tell them what they mean to you. Today. Not Monday. A man can't break a promise to the woman he loves. But first, make the promise to yourself. Drop your story in the comments. Have you ever had someone come back after they left? How did you handle it? And has anyone in your life been a Claire to you? Someone who loved you through your worst version? Tell me below. I read every single one. Red heart.